Awaken your spirit, chosen ones. People don't study you because you're ordinary. They study you because your existence keeps rewriting the script they thought they understood. There's a strange thing about being a chosen one. You never realize you've become the topic of every room until the whispers start traveling faster than your footsteps. And here's the suspense-filled twist. Psychologists say the human brain is wired to fixate on anything that disrupts its expectations. That means the moment you stop fitting the role people assign to you, their minds can't help but replay your name like a rerun they never asked for, but suddenly can't turn off. But let's be honest, half the people talking about you don't even like you. They're just emotionally invested in your life, like it's a premium series they somehow got access to without paying a subscription. You change one thing about yourself and boom, someone who hasn't spoken to you in 2 years suddenly becomes the leading expert on your updates. Suspiciously fast, too. And that's the beautiful irony. You're not trending because you're loud, flashy, or trying to be noticed. You're trending because your growth, your silence, your evolution, your rise, it unsettles people who built their self-esteem on believing you would stay where they left you. There's something magnetic, unsettling, and almost cinematic about watching someone become the version of themselves the world wasn't prepared for. You became that plot twist. You became the unexpected headline in their otherwise predictable emotional newspaper. And deep down, they're not talking because they hate you. They're talking because they can't process how you slipped out of the limits they used to confidently place around your name. So if you've ever wondered why your vibe, your choices, your identity, or your glow seems to live rent-free in conversations you didn't attend, welcome. You've entered the realm where your presence challenges people more than your absence ever did. And today, we're breaking down the real reason why you're the hot topic, whether people want to admit it or not. Number 1, you expose their unfulfilled potential without saying a word. There's a certain discomfort people feel around someone who refuses to settle. It's not loud, it's not confrontational, and it's not intentional, but it hits them in the places they never speak about. When you grow, evolve, and break your own limitations, it quietly forces others to face the limits they've accepted. And most people are not ready for that kind of mirror. They talk about you because you remind them of the version of themselves they abandoned. You trigger the dreams they buried, the confidence they never built, the courage they postponed, and the life they told themselves they would start one day. Your progress messes with their internal storyline. It shows them that what they call unrealistic is actually achievable, and what they call impossible is more about their own lack of action than the world's lack of opportunity. You didn't preach anything to them, you didn't lecture them, you just changed, you worked, you grew, you leveled up, and that alone shakes them more than any motivational speech ever could. Your results make them rethink their excuses. Your discipline makes their procrastination look louder. Your self-respect makes their tolerance for nonsense feel embarrassing. Yet instead of admitting this, it's easier for them to make you a topic of conversation. Talking about you becomes a form of self-protection. It gives them a way to avoid looking inward. It's far simpler to analyze you, critique you, misunderstand you, or exaggerate your story than to look at their own choices with honesty. So they talk. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you did something right, something they didn't do. And deep down, they know it. Deep down, they feel that uncomfortable pull, the one that tells them they could have done more, tried harder, or believed in themselves the way you believed in yourself. But acknowledging that would mean taking responsibility, and responsibility is heavier than gossip. That's why you're the topic. You don't expose their flaws. Your life does. Number 2, you disrupt the social hierarchy they built to feel important. Some people spend their entire lives building invisible ladders, carefully placing themselves in positions that make them feel superior. They create networks, manipulate perceptions, and control narratives just to maintain the illusion that they are on top. Then you appear, not because you're trying to dethrone anyone, but simply because you operate differently. You don't play their games, follow their rules, or need permission to exist at your level. And suddenly, the structure they spent years crafting starts to wobble. You disrupt the hierarchy by refusing to acknowledge their artificial rankings. You don't compete for their approval, you don't seek validation from the right people, and you don't let their gossip influence your trajectory. Your independence exposes the fragility of their constructed power. The very thing that gave them comfort, the belief that they are untouchable within their social sphere, no longer works when you're around. People notice, they react, they talk. Your mere presence challenges their control. They built walls and expectations around their status, and you don't just step over the walls, you make them look arbitrary. Suddenly everyone sees the limitations of the system they thought protected them. People who were once influential feel exposed, and that makes you an irresistible topic of conversation. The threat isn't in what you do, it's in the fact that you exist outside the rules they rely on to feel important. You also break the patterns they use to define worth. If someone's entire identity is tied to being better than someone, then someone who refuses to play that game becomes a mirror of their insecurity. They can't measure you, and that frustrates them. That frustration turns into discussion, gossip, and analysis as they try to regain some sense of control over a reality they can no longer dominate. You don't need to win or fight for a crown. You only need to rise authentically. And the higher you rise, the more their fabricated ladders crumble, quietly or noisily, in the background. That is why you become the topic of every conversation. Your growth alone is enough to disturb the delicate illusions people built to feel superior. Number 3, you refuse to shrink, and that threatens those who hide behind masks. Most people spend their lives carefully fitting into boxes they didn't even choose. They dim their light, soften their opinions, and hide their strengths just to feel safe and accepted. They craft personas designed to blend in, to avoid scrutiny, to make others comfortable while quietly suffocating themselves. Then you arrive, not asking for permission, not softening your edges, not lowering your volume, and suddenly their carefully constructed world feels unstable. Your refusal to shrink is terrifying to them because it exposes the contrast between what they pretend to be and what they could have been. You are loud in the only way that matters. You are unapologetically alive. You move forward unapologetically, embrace your worth unapologetically, and live in alignment with yourself unapologetically. That creates a mirror they cannot ignore. Every step you take silently shouts, "You could do this too if you were brave enough." This is why they can't stop talking about you. Your confidence forces them to confront the uncomfortable truth. Their safety and comfort come at the cost of authenticity. They built walls and masks to protect themselves, but you walk past them effortlessly. You make authenticity look natural, inevitable, even effortless, and that makes them anxious. Your life becomes a reminder that their fear, hesitation, and compromises are self-imposed limits. They may laugh at you, criticize you, or dissect your every choice, but underneath, it's fear disguised as conversation. They are afraid of what you represent. Someone who won't play by invisible rules, someone who won't apologize for existing fully, someone whose presence makes their half-lived lives feel hollow. You don't need to prove anything. You simply refuse to diminish yourself to make them comfortable, and that alone commands attention. Every whisper, every observation, every topic of discussion about you is rooted in the fact that your courage and authenticity make them question everything they've settled for. You are the undeniable reminder that living fully is possible, and that threat is irresistible, unavoidable, and endlessly fascinating to them. Number 4. Your growth didn't ask for permission, and they resent that freedom. There's a unique kind of discomfort people feel when someone around them starts improving without waiting for anyone's approval. Most people are conditioned to move slowly, second-guess themselves, and ask for validation at every step. They check in with others before they make decisions. They wait for the right time, and they let fear dictate their pace. So when you grow boldly, consistently, and without seeking applause, it unsettles those who have been living their lives on pause. You didn't wait for a green light. You didn't wait for support. You didn't wait for someone to say, "You're allowed to change now." You just started becoming better. And that frustrates people who rely on external permission to evolve. Your progress exposes their stagnation. Your courage exposes their hesitation. Your momentum exposes the excuses they've been recycling for years. People resent that kind of freedom because it highlights what they refuse to do for themselves. It's easier for them to believe that success requires connections, luck, or approval. But when you grow without any of that, you challenge their entire belief system. Your life becomes proof that they could be doing more, trying more, risking more, but they aren't. And instead of admitting that, they turn you into a conversation topic. It's a distraction disguised as interest. They analyze your moves because they wish they could make similar ones. They question your decisions because they're afraid to make their own. They downplay your progress because it reminds them of the progress they never attempted. You didn't break rules, you broke the unspoken contract they all secretly follow. Don't outgrow the environment you started in. The truth is, your growth didn't offend them, your independence did. The fact that you didn't seek approval before becoming a stronger, wiser, more elevated version of yourself is what stings. You made a move they didn't believe you were allowed to make. And every time you reach a new level, you expose how small their world becomes when they let fear and validation run their life. That's why they talk about you. Your evolution forces them to confront everything they postponed. Number 5. You stopped playing the unspoken roles they assigned you. People love to assign roles to others, often without ever saying it out loud. They decide who you're supposed to be based on who you were years ago, who they need you to be, or who makes them feel comfortable. Maybe they saw you as the quiet one, the predictable one, the easy-to-control one, the one who never fights back, the one who always shows up, or the one who stays exactly where they were first placed. These roles give them a sense of stability and control. They know what to expect from you, and more importantly, they know where to rank themselves in comparison to you. But then you changed. You grew out of that version of yourself, and you stopped playing along with the expectations they quietly built around your identity. You set boundaries, you developed confidence, you became more selective, you stopped tolerating certain behaviors, or you simply started acting like someone who finally knows their worth. And that shift destabilized everything they thought they understood about you. When you refuse to play the part they wrote for you, you force them to reassess the story they've been telling themselves. It's unsettling for them because it means they misjudged you. It means the comfort they found in defining you was false. It means they no longer have emotional leverage over you. So instead of adjusting to your growth, they start talking about it. They gossip, question, dissect, and overanalyze your every move, trying to make sense of the new version of you they never prepared for. Your transformation disrupts their narrative. They can no longer treat you as the weaker one, the predictable one, or the available on-demand one. And when someone loses the role they assigned to another person, they feel threatened, because it exposes the truth that the control they thought they had was only a story they were telling themselves. You didn't change to upset anyone. You changed because you evolved. But evolution always offends people who rely on you staying small. That's why they talk about you now. You broke the script they were comfortable with, and in doing so, you reclaimed your power. Number 6. Your energy reveals the truth of who's genuine and who's parasitic. One thing people don't expect is how revealing your presence becomes once you start valuing yourself. When you step into a higher level emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, people can no longer hide their intentions around you. Your energy becomes a filter, not because you're trying to expose anyone, but because you outgrow the frequency that once allowed certain behaviors to go unnoticed. Suddenly, the people who are only around for benefits feel uncomfortable. The ones who truly care remain steady, and the ones who are just taking advantage of you start slipping, panicking, or reacting in strange ways. This shift is confronting for them because they're not reacting to what you said. They're reacting to what they can no longer get away with. When you were unsure of yourself, they could drain you, manipulate you, guilt-trip you, or use you emotionally without any resistance. But now that you're more self-aware, they can no longer hide behind fake kindness or selective loyalty. Their intentions become painfully obvious, even if they don't say a word. People talk about you because you bring out sides of them they were hoping to keep hidden. You force a level of honesty they didn't consent to. Your growth stripped away their camouflage. It revealed who was genuinely supportive and who was only sticking around because they benefited from your confusion, your generosity, or your lack of boundaries. The truth is, parasitic people don't fear losing you. They fear losing access to what you provided. Once they sense that access fading, they react by talking. They gossip, twist facts, bring up your name constantly, or turn others against you. It's a classic move. When people lose control, they look for an audience, yet the genuine ones don't change. They don't feel threatened by your evolution because they were never feeding off you in the first place. You became the topic because your energy did what your words never had to. It separated the real from the fake. And when truth shows up, those who depended on illusion will always make the most noise. Number 7. You have a gravity they can't escape or reproduce. There's something about you that pulls people in without you even trying. It's not charm, not effort, not performance. It's a natural force you carry that others can sense even before they fully understand it. Some people call it presence, others call it aura, but at its core, it's the undeniable pull of authenticity. You don't fake who you are. You don't edit yourself to fit the room. You don't shift your personality depending on who's watching. That kind of consistency gives you a natural power most people spend their lives chasing but never achieve. This is why you become the topic of their conversations. They can't replicate what you have, so they study it. They analyze every move you make, not always out of admiration, but out of fascination, and sometimes frustration. They feel drawn to you even when they don't want to be. Your presence lingers long after you leave a room. Your words stick. Your energy stays with them. It's almost like they're orbiting you without realizing it. People who lack a strong sense of self find you especially hard to ignore. Your groundedness exposes their instability. Your clarity highlights their confusion. Your confidence emphasizes their insecurity. So instead of dealing with those feelings privately, they talk about you. They use conversation as a way to process the effect you have on them. You become their reference point, their measuring stick, even if they would never admit it. And here's the real twist. You're not doing anything extraordinary. You're simply aligned with yourself. But alignment is rare, and rarity has a gravitational pull. People are captivated by what they don't understand and drawn to what they can't control. They feel the shift you bring, the ease you move with, the quiet strength you carry, and they can't help but revolve around it. This is the kind of influence that doesn't need strategy or manipulation. It's natural. It's effortless. And that's what bothers them the most. You didn't fight for the spotlight. You didn't force your way into relevance. Your existence created its own orbit, and they're caught in it, willingly or not. Number 8. Your resilience shames their excuses. People don't always talk about you because they admire you. Sometimes they talk because your resilience highlights everything they've avoided facing in their own lives. You've been through things that could have broken you, slowed you down, or turned you bitter. But instead, you kept moving. You kept showing up. You kept rising. And that persistence exposes the truth about the excuses others use to avoid growth. Your resilience is uncomfortable for them because it destroys the narrative they hide behind. Many people tell themselves they can't change because their past was hard, their situation is complicated, or life is unfair. But when they look at you, someone who faced challenges, setbacks, disappointments, betrayals, and still found a way forward, it puts pressure on their story. You become living evidence that life may knock you down, but staying down is a choice. That's what makes you a topic. They try to figure out how you keep going when they would have given up. They question your strength because it makes them question their own. They discuss your progress because it makes their stagnation too obvious to ignore. Your ability to rise is a mirror they didn't ask for, but can't look away from. Some will say you got lucky because it's easier than admitting you worked harder. Some will say you changed because it's easier than admitting they stayed the same. Some will even minimize your journey because accepting the truth would require them to confront their own fears, procrastination, and lack of effort. You didn't shame them. Your life did. Your consistency challenges their inconsistency. Your discipline reveals their avoidance. Your ability to keep going, even when you had every reason to quit, reminds them of the potential they abandoned. But here's the deeper layer. Your resilience doesn't just expose their excuses, it exposes their limits. And people cling tightly to their limits, because letting go of them means accepting that they could do so much more with their lives. That's why the conversations about you never end. You are the living contradiction to every excuse they've used to stay small. Number 9. You don't need chaos to feel alive, but they do. For a lot of people, chaos isn't just part of their life, it's the fuel that keeps them going. Drama gives them something to talk about, conflict gives them something to focus on, and emotional tension gives them a sense of purpose. Without it, they feel empty. Calmness makes them uncomfortable because it forces them to sit with their own thoughts, their own insecurities, and their own lack of direction. So when they encounter someone like you, someone who can exist peacefully without constant noise, they don't know how to process it. Your stability threatens them because it exposes the dysfunction they've normalized. You don't chase arguments. You don't seek revenge. You don't get pulled into petty fights. You don't create storms just to feel something. Instead, you prioritize peace, clarity, and emotional intelligence. And for people who depend on chaos to avoid personal responsibility, your calmness feels like a challenge. It forces them to confront their habits, their patterns, and the drama they willingly invite into their lives. This is why they talk about you. Your life becomes a disruption to their chaos-driven lifestyle. They try to understand how you can be so grounded when they're always on edge. They gossip about your peace because it highlights their restlessness. They dissect your decisions because it distracts them from the turmoil in their own lives. People who constantly live in chaos are wary of anyone who doesn't participate in it. To them, your calmness isn't just unusual, it's suspicious. They want to know why you're not reactive, why you're unbothered, why you're not fighting back the way they expect. They mistake your emotional maturity for arrogance because it's easier than admitting they're addicted to the drama you walked away from. Deep down, they're fascinated by you, not because you're perfect, but because you represent a version of life they secretly want, but don't know how to create. Your peace shows them what's possible beyond the chaos they cling to. And that's why they keep talking. Your stillness makes their noise harder to ignore. Your balance reveals their instability. and your peaceful existence becomes their loudest reminder that chaos was never the requirement. They just learned to depend on it. Number 10. Your boundaries robbed them of access they never deserved. For a long time, certain people relied on the old version of you, the one who overgave, over-explained, overlooked red flags, and overextended yourself just to keep the peace. They got used to having easy access to your time, your energy, your kindness, your support, and your emotional labor. They assumed you would always be available, always understanding, always forgiving, always putting their needs above your own. When someone benefits from your lack of boundaries, they start believing your generosity is their entitlement. But then it happened. You woke up to your worth. You started saying no. You started protecting your peace. You stopped letting people drain you simply because they were used to drinking from your well. And the moment you set boundaries, the dynamic shifted. Suddenly they felt the loss of privileges they never earned. They felt the distance. They felt the new you, stronger, sharper, clearer, standing between them and the access they used to enjoy freely. And that's when the conversations began. People who once took advantage of your openness now talk about how you've changed, not because your change is bad, but because your change removes their benefits. They call you difficult because you won't tolerate disrespect. They call you distant because you won't entertain nonsense. They call you rude because you no longer carry their emotional baggage. They call you cold because you stopped letting them walk all over you. In reality, your boundaries took away their control, and people react loudly when they lose control. The truth is, they were never attached to you. They were attached to what you provided, your care, your support, your presence, your availability. The moment you protected those things, their true feelings surfaced. And instead of growing with you, they resorted to talking about you. It's easier for them to gossip than to admit they were spoiled by access they never earned. Your boundaries didn't hurt anyone. They exposed everyone. They revealed who valued you as a person and who only valued the benefits. And once exposed, people scramble for explanations, excuses, and stories because silence would force them to face the truth. They lost access, not because you changed, but because they never treated you right to begin with. Number 11. You became evidence that discipline beats talent, and they hate proof. Nothing exposes people faster than someone who succeeds through consistency rather than natural advantage. Many individuals like to believe that the only reason they haven't reached their goals is because they weren't born with enough talent, resources, or special gifts. It's a comfortable excuse. It lets them avoid effort while blaming circumstances. But then you come along, someone who simply shows up, works hard, stays committed, and keeps improving. Your life becomes a living contradiction to their excuses. You didn't wait for inspiration. You didn't rely on being naturally gifted. You didn't depend on luck. You built yourself through repetition, discipline, and the decision to not give up. And that bothers people who prefer the fantasy that only chosen or naturally talented people succeed. Your progress makes their inaction too obvious. This is why they talk about you. They need to explain away your results. Saying you worked for it would force them to admit they aren't working for anything. Saying you earned it would make them face the fact that they aren't earning anything. So instead, they create narratives. You changed. You got lucky. You had help. They'll say anything that allows them to dodge the uncomfortable truth. You became the proof that effort matters more than excuses. Your discipline is threatening because it's replicable, and that scares people who don't want to try. It means they could have done more with their life. It means their lack of progress is no longer mysterious. It's just a lack of consistency. Watching you rise forces them to confront the gap between their dreams and their habits. And many would rather gossip about you than confront that gap within themselves. But here's the part they'll never admit. They're not just talking about you because they're threatened. They're talking because they're impressed. Deep down, they know there's nothing supernatural about what you've done. You simply committed to becoming better, long after they got tired, distracted, or discouraged. And that's what stings the most. You're not proof that someone special can rise. You're proof that anyone could, if they actually put in the work. Number 12. Your peace isn't quiet. It's power under control. There comes a point where your peace stops being a soft, quiet thing and turns into something solid, undeniable, and almost intimidating. It becomes a force that doesn't need noise to prove itself. People start sensing that you're grounded in a way that can't be shaken by gossip, pressure, or the emotional storms of others. And that's when your presence begins to stand out. Not because you're trying to dominate anything, but because you've mastered the art of not being moved by what doesn't matter. This kind of peace doesn't come from pretending to be calm. It comes from surviving enough internal battles to know what's worth your energy and what no longer deserves a seat at your table. You respond differently. You choose differently. You don't jump at every invitation to chaos. You don't explain yourself just because someone demands clarity. You don't react the way people expect you to, and that throws them off in ways they can't always express. People who used to get a reaction out of you start getting silence. People who were used to your emotional availability now meet a steady wall of self-control. People who relied on your insecurities to feel bigger suddenly realize you've cut off their access point. And the truth is, nothing threatens the unstable more than someone who has become emotionally untouchable. Your peace becomes the boundary they never saw coming. It's the calm confidence that says, I don't need to win this argument. I don't need to defend myself. I don't need to fix what you broke in yourself. I'm choosing me. And once you reach that point, people start treating you differently, not because you changed into someone cold, but because you stopped letting anyone pull you out of your alignment. The beauty of this kind of peace is that it's both soft and unshakable. It doesn't yell, it doesn't force, it doesn't chase, it simply stands firm. And the more you protect it, the more powerful it becomes. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth and refuses to negotiate it. Number 13. Your growth started exposing the truth. People tried to hide. When you grow, you don't just rise, you reveal. Your progress has a way of shining a light on things people hoped would stay in the dark. It's not that you go digging for anyone's secrets or calling attention to their flaws. You simply elevate, and in doing so, everything around you becomes clearer. Your maturity exposes their immaturity. Your discipline exposes their excuses. Your confidence exposes their insecurities. And suddenly, people who were once comfortable around you start feeling uneasy without you doing a single thing. That's because growth forces contrast. When you begin choosing better for yourself, the people who settled for less feel it. When your mindset sharpens, those who stayed stagnant notice the gap. When you stop entertaining dysfunction, the ones who thrived off your confusion realize they no longer have the same influence. And even though you're not attacking or accusing anyone, your evolution becomes a mirror they can't escape. Some people can handle that mirror, others resent it. They may distance themselves, create narratives, or act differently, not because you've wronged them, but because your new level silently calls out the truth they've been avoiding, the truth about how they treated you, the truth about how little they expected from themselves, the truth about the roles they played in their own unhappiness, and the truth about how they counted on you staying the same. Your growth becomes the spotlight that exposes the patterns they hid behind. It shows who truly supported you and who only supported a weaker version of you. It reveals who celebrated your breakthroughs and who secretly hoped you would stay predictable, controllable, and small. The powerful part is this: you aren't responsible for anyone's discomfort. You're not meant to shrink so others feel taller. You're not meant to dim so others feel brighter. You're not meant to apologize for becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your purpose. Growth will always reveal what was real, and you're finally in a place where you let the truth show, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. Your evolution speaks for itself, and it never lies. Number 14. Your destiny has movement, and movement attracts noise. There's a reason people can't stop talking about those who are constantly moving forward. It's not always about charm, looks, or luck. It's about momentum. When you refuse to stay stagnant, when you refuse to linger in comfort zones, when you refuse to settle for mediocrity, you create a ripple that others can't ignore. People notice the shift because it challenges their own complacency. Your progress highlights the gaps between who they are and who they could be, and that contrast makes them uncomfortable, curious, and sometimes envious, all at once. Movement is inherently disruptive. While most people cling to routines, comfort, and predictability, you keep evolving. You keep growing. You keep making choices that take you closer to your vision, your goals, and your purpose. And because they are watching, because they are anchored in observation rather than action, they talk, they gossip, they analyze, they overthink your every step, not because they can catch up, but because they feel the pressure of your trajectory. The truth is, people fear what they cannot control. Your movement proves that you don't need permission, approval, or validation to move ahead. Your life becomes proof that progress isn't negotiable, it's intentional. And when they can't stop your momentum, their only option is to talk about it. That conversation isn't just about you, it's about their inability to move at the same pace. Momentum also amplifies your presence. Even if you never speak a word, your actions, choices, and results radiate outward. People sense the energy of someone who isn't waiting for the world to catch up. They sense someone who is already ahead, already evolving, already creating. And that creates a gravitational pull. Your movement naturally makes you the center of attention, the point of comparison, and the topic of discussion. Noise always follows movement. It's unavoidable. But the louder the noise, the more obvious it becomes. You are not standing still. You are not average. You are not stagnant. Your destiny is in motion, and that motion is magnetic, unavoidable, and impossible to ignore. Conclusion. At the core of it all, the reason you've become the topic of every conversation isn't luck, chance, or superficial charm. It's your alignment with your true self. You expose what others have buried, challenge the illusions they cling to, and rise in ways that make stagnation impossible to ignore. Your growth, your boundaries, your resilience, your calm, your discipline, all of it shines a light on truths people aren't ready to face in themselves. And that's exactly why they watch, whisper, and talk. Your life has become a living proof of what's possible when someone refuses to shrink, compromise, or settle. You are not trending because you begged for attention. You are trending because your evolution, your choices, and your presence disrupt the narratives others created about you. And in that disruption, your power becomes undeniable. Every step you take forward, every boundary you enforce, every decision you make with clarity and confidence is a reminder that real influence doesn't demand noise. It commands respect. Your energy, your alignment, and your momentum speak louder than any words ever could, and that is why the world is compelled to talk about you. Here's the key. This isn't about them. It's about you. About your growth, your peace, your power, your unshakable trajectory. And the beautiful part is that you didn't have to break, bend, or fight to make them notice. You simply became who you were always meant to be, and in doing so, you rewrote the rules of influence, attention, and respect. So embrace it. Stand tall, keep moving, keep evolving, Let your life be the statement that can't be ignored, the proof that can't be disputed, and the energy that can't be contained. Your story isn't just a topic. It's a blueprint for anyone who dares to rise beyond expectation. If you found this empowering and want to continue on this journey of growth, self-mastery, and unstoppable presence, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Your evolution deserves to be witnessed, and together we rise higher. Stay awakened, chosen ones.